Let's begin. But first, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Sky High Stories. The grand ballroom sparkled under crystal chandeliers, every corner polished to perfection. Tables were draped in ivory silk, adorned with towering floral arrangements of roses and lilies. The wife, poised in a sleek emerald gown, meticulously oversaw every detail, adjusting silverware, velvet napkins, and the placement of delicate champagne flutes. Invitations had summoned the city's elite, and the buzz of anticipation filled the air. Guests would arrive in designer attire, their laughter and chatter mingling with the soft notes of a live string quartet. Her husband, in a tailored tuxedo, drifted from corner to corner, distant, his mind elsewhere. Subtle tension simmered beneath the glamour, a quiet warning of secrets yet to surface. The doors opened, and a stream of elegantly dressed guests flowed in, exchanging polite smiles and whispered greetings. The wife moved gracefully among them, her every gesture warm and welcoming, the epitome of charm. Among the arriving crowd, one presence stood out, a woman in a scarlet gown, her eyes magnetic, her confidence radiating. The wife's gaze immediately found her. She recognized the subtle aura of the husband's lover, introduced with the careful timing of someone who wanted to be noticed. As the lover smiled at a group of acquaintances, the wife felt a shiver of unease, a silent battle of glances sparking between them. The room, opulent and bright, seemed charged with tension that no guest yet sensed. Laughter echoed across the marble floors, glasses clinked, but beneath the surface, an invisible line had been drawn, a prelude to conflict that would unravel before the night ended. The husband drifted toward the bar, excusing himself with a charming smile, but his eyes constantly flickered toward the lover. His behavior, once familiar and reassuring, now carried a subtle chill, furtive glances, whispered phone calls, smiles that felt distant. The wife, sensing the shift, observed quietly, analyzing his every move, the knot of unease tightening in her chest. Polite exchanges flowed between them, yet beneath the surface simmered unspoken tensions. The lover's presence was no accident. The wife recognized the deliberate provocations, the stolen looks, the poised elegance that made her husband's attention waver. Each laugh he shared, each fleeting touch, carried layers of hidden intention. As the wife surveyed the sparkling ballroom, the faces of friends and family oblivious to the storm, she felt a creeping dread. A sense of inevitability loomed, a chilling awareness that this night's celebration would transform into something far more complicated and far more dangerous. The room fell silent as the husband lifted his crystal glass, voice smooth yet slightly strained. "To many more years of love and happiness," he announced, a practiced smile gracing his lips. Applause erupted, guests clinking glasses with cheerful abandon. The wife returned a poised smile, though it was faint, forced, her heart tightening with unease. In that brief moment, memories cascaded through her mind. Their first meeting on a rain-soaked evening, laughter echoing through quiet streets, the shared triumphs and late-night consolations during difficult times. She recalled the small moments of intimacy that had built a life together, now feeling fragile and threatened. Across the room, the husband's gaze subtly drifted, brushing past the sea of faces, resting on the lover whose scarlet gown gleamed like a warning. That glance, fleeting yet undeniable, planted the first seeds of fear, a silent prelude to the betrayal she felt crawling toward her. As the evening progressed, the lover made her intentions increasingly clear. Her laughter carried across the room, directed in just the right way to catch the husband's attention. Compliments were tossed his way, casual yet charged with underlying meaning, her fingers brushing his arm during conversation, a lingering touch that felt deliberate. Whispers passed between them, words too soft for anyone else to hear but sharp enough to sting the wife's awareness. The husband's reactions were maddeningly ambiguous, smiles that were too intimate, eyes that lingered too long, leaving the wife questioning herself. Around them, subtle ripples of tension formed. Guests noticed slight shifts in posture, tight smiles, the occasional awkward glance, yet dismissed them as mere social quirks. The wife's internal storm swelled, hurt, disbelief, and simmering anger collided with the need to maintain composure. She moved among guests, trying to preserve grace while silently observing every interaction with her husband or the lover, sharpening the ache of betrayal. The lover's presence was no accident. It was a strategic, calculated intrusion meant to destabilize the wife, a game being played in plain sight with the ballroom as their stage. Retreating to a quieter corner, the wife approached her husband with measured steps, a mix of vulnerability and resolve in her eyes. "Can we talk?" she asked softly, voice controlled but heavy with unspoken accusation. He responded with casual deflection, offering vague reassurances while his eyes flickered repeatedly toward the lover, betraying a restless attention he could not disguise. The conversation was a tense dance, polite on the surface but layered with subtext. Each word and pause carried more meaning than their simplicity suggested. The wife sensed the truth closing in like a tightening vice, a revelation she could no longer avoid. Her silence became a weapon, a mirror reflecting the storm in her mind, each glance laden with understanding and unspoken challenge. The audience feels the tension as if holding their breath. The confrontation is inevitable, and the wife's calm exterior masks a hurricane of awareness, determination, and the resolve to act decisively once the moment comes. The string quartet shifted to a slow, sultry melody, and the lover gracefully extended her hand to the husband. Their dance began with elegance, but every step, every turn, carried an unmistakable intimacy. Her fingers brushed against his hand, lingering just enough to draw a reaction, a subtle spark of desire in his eyes. The ballroom, glittering with crystal chandeliers and golden accents, seemed to shrink around them. Time slowed as the dance became a spectacle, a silent declaration of possession. The wife stood to the side, her heart racing, each pirouette and step between them a dagger twisting in her chest. The guests' eyes were divided, some noticing the unmistakable chemistry, others lost in polite chatter, oblivious to the tension unfolding. Every turn, every glance, every laugh between the husband and the lover underscored the betrayal. The wife's stomach churned as the realization settled in. This was no mere flirtation, this was a calculated, public claim. As the husband raised his glass for a toast, the lover leaned in close, whispering words meant for him alone yet loud enough for the room to feel their gravity. His smile shifted, softer, more captivated, a smile he had never reserved for his wife. The wife's breath caught. The audacity of the act struck her like lightning. Guests, previously celebrating, paused mid-cheer, sensing the change in energy, though unaware of the full truth. The lover's victory was deliberate, a brazen display in plain view. The previously festive ballroom became charged, electric, a stage where humiliation and heartbreak were intertwined. Each guest unwittingly became a witness to the drama, their murmurs and shifting gazes amplifying the wife's humiliation. The lover's actions, subtle yet unmistakable, were designed to dominate the night, to prove power and control. The wife's eyes narrowed, understanding that the public claim was a gauntlet thrown, daring her to respond or retreat. For a fleeting moment, the wife stepped aside, letting the spectacle unfold while battling a storm inside her. Pain surged, raw and unrelenting, mingling with anger and disbelief. Memories of their life together, shared laughter, quiet mornings, nights of trust, flooded her mind, juxtaposed cruelly against this public betrayal. Yet beneath the hurt, a steely resolve formed. She understood that her next move would define her dignity and power. The idea of leaving crystallized, not as an act of defeat but as a statement louder than any words could carry. Her inner monologue carried the weight of years of loyalty, love, and sacrifice, now being overshadowed by audacity. The psychological tension was palpable. The wife's decision was her reclaiming control of the narrative, asserting that she would not be humiliated in silence. With measured breaths and a racing heartbeat, she prepared herself for a departure that would leave an impression more enduring than the lover's fleeting triumph. The husband stood at the center of the grand ballroom, crystal glass raised, the crowd's chatter dimming as all eyes turned toward him. He was the picture of composure, yet a subtle tension lingered in his jaw and the flicker of his gaze. Guests held their breath, sensing that something significant was about to unfold, though unaware of its true weight. His eyes moved deliberately, first to his wife, the woman who had shared his life and countless memories, whose smile remained poised despite the storm brewing. Then, almost imperceptibly, his gaze shifted to the lover, standing confidently nearby, her presence bold and unapologetic. The air seemed to thicken, heavy with anticipation, a nearly tangible current of suspense that threaded through the room. The wife, perfectly composed, took a slow, deliberate breath, her fingers lightly clutching the edge of her clutch as if grounding herself in the moment. Time itself seemed to slow, every heartbeat amplified in the stillness. In that suspended instant, the psychological intensity of the moment captured everyone. Her unwavering poise contrasted sharply with the husband's inner hesitation, signaling that a decision, once made, could shatter lives in an instant. Without warning, the husband's voice cut through the silence, clear and deliberate. "This year, I realize where my heart truly belongs," he announced, his eyes never leaving the lovers, the words echoing across the chandelier-lit room. Gasps erupted instantly, a wave of shock rippling through the guests. The wife, standing tall, felt the sting of betrayal pierce sharply, yet she maintained a composed exterior, her expression carefully controlled. Murmurs spread, some guests whispered condolences, others gossiped under their breath, and a few stared in disbelief, their faces pale with surprise. The lover's smirk widened, triumphant, certain she had claimed victory. Yet the wife's silence, her calm demeanor, carried an unspoken weight that no applause or whisper could diminish. The declaration, while bold, had inadvertently revealed more than the lover anticipated. The power dynamic in the room had subtly shifted, and the real drama, the true reckoning, had only just begun. A hush fell over the ballroom as the wife slowly rose, every movement deliberate, measured, and imbued with authority. Time seemed to dilate, each step she took toward the exit resonating like a heartbeat in the stunned silence. Guests turned, some attempting to call her back, some whispering behind their hands, but she moved with unshakable resolve, eyes forward, chin lifted. Her departure was more than a physical exit, it was a symbolic act, a reclamation of dignity in the face of public betrayal. The lover's victory, though loudly proclaimed, felt hollow against the wife's composed departure. The audience, both within the story and beyond it, sensed the magnitude of her presence. The power of her self-possession overshadowed the lover's fleeting triumph. Each stride toward freedom echoed her silent message. Strength, integrity, and self-respect cannot be stolen, even in the most humiliating of circumstances. As she passed beneath the glittering chandeliers one last time, the stage was set for the inevitable consequences that awaited the husband and his audacious lover. The ballroom remained suspended in stunned silence, the echoes of the wife's departure lingering like a tangible presence. Some guests, recovering from shock, stepped forward cautiously, offering whispered words of comfort and gentle touches on her arm. Others froze, unable to process the magnitude of what had just occurred, their eyes wide, mouths slightly agape. The husband's gaze darted frantically across the room, realization dawning too late. He had not only betrayed his wife but humiliated her in front of every friend, colleague, and family member. The lover, once brimming with confidence and smug triumph, now sensed a subtle shift, a silent authority emanating from the wife that could not be ignored. Chaos and disbelief rippled through the guests, murmurs and gossip mingling with the tension, creating a charged atmosphere that hung heavy over the glittering chandeliers and once celebratory tables. The wife retreated to the sanctuary of her private suite, the distant hum of the ballroom barely penetrating the walls. She sank into a plush chair, her mind a whirlwind of emotion. Flashbacks of laughter, quiet conversations, shared dreams, now juxtaposed sharply against the sting of betrayal. Anger and sorrow coursed through her, yet mingled with a growing clarity, a sense of control and awareness that strengthened her resolve. She reflected on her loyalty, the sacrifices she had made, and the resilience she had cultivated over years of partnership and personal trials. Each memory, each pang of hurt, sharpened her insight into the situation, allowing her to chart a path forward. Plans for the future, possibilities of confrontation, or quiet redemption flickered in her mind. The suspense deepened as the audience feels the weight of her inner reckoning, the psychological complexity of heartbreak, dignity, and strategy coalescing, hinting at moves yet to be made. A soft chime from her phone broke the silence. A message appeared, brief and cryptic, yet loaded with implication. This was only the beginning. The wife's fingers trembled slightly as she read it, a spark of intrigue lighting her eyes. The husband's impulsive choices, the lover's audacious display, and the spectacle of the night now had consequences extending far beyond the ballroom. The narrative lingered on this moment, a suspenseful pause that hinted at a future confrontation, strategic moves, and perhaps a reckoning that would surpass the night's public drama. The audience was left on edge, anticipation mounting for what would unfold next. The narrative explores the intricate dynamics of betrayal, power, and the quiet strength required to reclaim one's dignity. Symbolism is woven throughout. The opulent ballroom reflects societal expectations and the glittering facade of perfection. The dance signifies both seduction and manipulation, and the carefully timed toast marks pivotal moments of revelation and choice. Emotional resonance arises from the wife's composed exit, a silent assertion of self-respect that contrasts sharply with the husband's public display and the lover's audacious confidence. Suspense is heightened through deliberate pacing, rich inner monologues, and staged interactions, leaving readers engaged, tense, and eager to unravel the consequences that follow.